And in our broader stuff, we'll mention there's infiltration into law enforcement, and we've engaged that, military, government, the NSA, all levels of society is part of the program. It's an extension all the way back to the old Nazi version of wanting the 1,000-year Reich to rule the world issues, and they also have people that they feel are the resistors or the ones who are obstacles, and that's the ones that they're planning to get out of the way. Others that they wanted to use in their program, if they're not compliant, they have what they call watchers that will watch them and observe them and report on them, and they also have enforcers that will come and harm them. We've taken victims numerous times to hospitals, seen them have to get bandaged up, finding them bruised. Even a federal officer's wife, for 4 years we dealt with her, abducted numerous times, taken, even standing in the federal officer's home towards Cleveland, Ohio, with weapons all around. This group even called in, giving trigger phrases, trying to pull her out. They use all kinds of stuff on mind control stuff. But the agenda is, right now, Gene, anyways, is in the churches. It's about reconnaissance. And part of it right now is they are living in stealth overall. So for many people, it's going to be hard to believe. They're living in stealth because their day has not yet arrived. Their time to really cause the anarchy and chaos hasn't come yet. And they are observing, they're watching, they're testing their powers in the churches and against the church. They seek to bring corruption. They seek to harm pastors. We know of a number of churches that have completely gone, were completely blasted by their works. And because of it being covert, it's one thing if someone walks in and wants to rob you publicly. It's another thing if someone comes in and they act like a Christian, they act like they're there to be a part, and then they're there, they are highly trained in their infiltration. And we've interviewed infiltrators who have turned away from it and got out. We've watched them, purposely observed them for some time to see how they do. And they are. Churches are unaware. That's why it's happening a lot there. But, gosh, I can tell you in our area, we've had people come in from 50 different churches who've had connections to this and to report, the evil side. So it's extensive. It's broad. One of the largest churches in our area has numerous people that we dealt with. And to the most part, many of them are just there purposely placed, because they have their targets for the future. They're also doing reconnaissance, taking information, sending it, back out, and they will use. And here's the hard part for many people, even Christians. These people are very, very highly trained in satanic ritual warfare, and they know how to conjure power, release power. You can call it putting curses, hexes, spells, whatever you want to call it. It's the opposite of what Christians do as far as prayer. And the Bible is clear that Satan and demons do have powers, and they can be unleashed and affect people. And if nothing's done, well, they can cause some trouble.
Well, you mentioned, yes, they can cause some trouble, but what I find is I still keep my faith in Jesus Christ and God, and I recommend that to anyone to denounce those powers, because that is definitely what they try to do. They try to take the good and they turn it to evil, and I find it so appalling because I was never exposed to this before I became an organized stalking victim. I mean, I knew it was out there. I had seen shows on Satanism on, of course, channels, and I thought, oh, this is awful. I mean, I would never go in this direction. But as this time period seems to be escalating, and especially with end-time prophecy, they seem to be walking all over the earth, doing whatever they want, and organized stalking victims are often, actually they are always, exposed to satanic tactics. And it took me a while to figure this out, because I know one man in Texas who made friends with a stray cat, and they let him make friends with it, and about 8 months later he called the cat one night and it didn't come to him, and he walked around his apartment to find it hit in the head with a stone, bloody, and a satanic stone placement around it. And the persecution level is very high. So I began putting two and two together, because I thought, is this a joke at first? Who would do this? But as I became more of a victim, and like I told you before, I was raped and gang raped, and tried to just totally knock down, and I kept fighting it. And every night I get the voices, and I hear them talk about, the Antichrist, usher in the Antichrist, and sex, and there will be no more traditional family, and, give up Christ, and all these other things. So I began, putting two and two together, because nobody in their right mind would be an organized stalker. No one would sit out 24 hours a day and watch someone else and do evil things to them. So, I just became more interested, and I'm definitely interested in exposing this because I feel like an apostasy of the church is taking place. And I know that you have different levels that you discuss on your website about the infiltration of the church. And one of them is this reconnaissance, this surveillance, this covert surveillance. And I'm very interested in it because you have other steps as well. So the infiltration has begun, without a doubt, in my mind, in your mind. What's next after the reconnaissance, and what's going to happen as they move forward in the church?
Right. They, with the victims that and here's where a lot of the information comes, when dealing with a lot of those who first came in as these kind of warriors that have come down from other states, other places, sometimes they came and contacted us, because they saw a little bit of our ministry maybe 10, 20, even 20 years ago. And so they would contact us and come, and at first they were like, we need help, and these things are occurring, but then we'd observe and watch. For example, the federal officer's wife that we brought in actually was brought to us, and we began to help this person, but then we began to have every kind of harassment, phone calls that would come in threatening us to leave her alone, that she belongs to them, and then things began to happen. People showing up at the house late in the middle of the night, symbols put on our cars, blood markings and things, little ritual things that were done. So the reconnaissance, though, in the church is, according to one of them, this is probably one of the most highly trained I've ever met, and the one that probably knew the most, came out of Fort Bragg, had CIA background too, knew the people that were involved in the original Monarch and MK Ultra, Sidney Gottlieb and all those from way back, and would have known Esther Brooks, who was the president of the American Psychological Association. They wrote the book Hypnosis, where he revealed back then some of the techniques that is used. But the reconnaissance is really to see who would be opposed, who they need to have targeted, so that ultimately, this, in simplistic terms, and we can get into the detail, but ultimately, after the German War, again, all these individuals, thousands upon thousands, including the Lebensborn children that were being raised to be super soldiers anyway, they were spread all over. The old Monarch project of the, I guess, the 50s, that came out of that, one of the reasons for the title Monarch is a monarch butterfly is one of the only little creatures that has migrated to every continent of the world, and that's the mentality. That they need to have them in all of Europe, Canada, UK, United States, clearly, all the places that they need to bring regime change. And the reconnaissance will eventually lead. Now, when they do this, they also do things like testing their powers, seeing how much they can get away with, bringing down people, as I mentioned, doing satanic warfare. For example, if one comes to a church or a counseling center or begins just to, visit or whatever, what will happen is they'll even have outside people that will do satanic warfare against the church, along with what they're doing on the inside. But, Gina, the ultimate goal across the board that we began to discover in the late 80s and all through the 90s specifically was the ultimate issue was that they had to be in place, not only in the churches, but again, because I was recruited to come into law enforcement and to be a police chaplain and teach in the police academy. Well, I was recruited, but the person that recruited me was a part of the whole project. And not only, and I can't go into detail